Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Bruner, and we are at the Museum on Main. It is July 29th, 2024, and we are visiting with Jim and Joanie Fields. And they have been Pleasanton residents
Forever.
forever. Seems like forever, right?
Right.
Yes, yes.
Joanie was born.
Joanie was born in Pleasanton.
Actually,
yeah.
In Livermore.
Well,
Yeah.
Livermore Hospital, because
That's
we
the-
didn't have a hospital in Pleasanton at the time.
Right,
But Mom and Dad lived in Pleasanton when
yes.
you were born.
And I came in 1953 when I was 8. So
And what brought you to Pleasanton?
Dad relocated his moving and storage business. And so, where the specialty auto cars are on
Yes.
First Street, those two buildings were his.
Okay,
So he set up his moving and storage business there. And then that's why we bought a home close by, as we talk about where we live later. But
so do you live in the house your parents lived in?
yes, so we bought it from them
Oh,
in
okay,
1973. So
okay,
it just turned 71 years old, the house.
okay. Wow. Yeah, that's nice. And you've got real history in that neighborhood. I know you've lived there, but I didn't know that you bought it from your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And got to be involved in the decorating of the street as a young. I think we started when I was about 10. And so
Okay, so you live on
Candy cane.
Candy
Lane.
Cane Lane
Right,
and Walnut
right.
Avenue,
Walnut
technically,
Drive,
Drive, yeah.
but it's not a through street.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But originally it was supposed to go through
Oh,
to First Street.
okay,
And so where the funeral parlor is now,
Yeah.
that was supposed to go through there
okay,
originally.
okay. And then, but I didn't know when they started decorating Candy Cane
Yeah.
Lane, so it was when you were 10.
right about there, 1955,
Okay.
54, right in there.
And what started that?
Some of the people on the block, Juanita and Ray Bianchi.
No, it was
It
Regalia.
was Regalia then, right.
Okay.
So Juanita and her first husband, and like Bob Copeman and Elaine Copeman, my dad got involved. So we thought it would be great if we hooked everybody's house up to lights. And it started off obviously small, and it's blossomed from there. So it's much more detailed and
How
pleasing
did,
to the eye now.
how did it blossom? Who was kind of pushing the,
We got street got younger, and not us so much. but-
Well, we were young then
Yeah,
once.
But I think what initiated some of the interest at first is they gave a little prize money, like $50 to the winner, $25 for second.
Pleasanton
Yeah,
paper or
the
something?
Pleasanton downtown.
Oh, okay,
People, and so it was, and we
It
wanted
was a
to,
chamber.
yeah, we wanted to try to get
competition.
noticed in a little
And
bit.
then we had the golden candy cane. And that was voted on with the residents of Walnut Drive.
Oh, that you have a candy
Yeah.
cane, you kind of
And
passed
passed
between.
it on.
Oh, neat, okay.
And then we stopped doing that.
Well, it encouraged others to do more, and, it was friendly and it didn't really matter. But so that the candy cane got placed on your lawn for that
Whole
time.
season.
And then it kind of got passed around because I don't think too many people have ever won twice. So,
Okay,
and there's 27 houses on the block, and everybody participates. Some full bore, some a little less. Some people ask us, "Do you have to do that when you move in?" Did they make that a requirement? I said no, but usually people move there because they've seen it, because they like it.
and don't most of the homeowners, when they leave their stuff?
Yeah, somehow.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes it hasn't been really in great shape by the time they left. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
Probably people that came in thought, well, we could do something up new.
So
So we painted candy canes together, Joni and some of the other people on the block got together and did the candy canes. And then when some new ones needed to be made, they got made. And painted, so it was a cooperative effort, so.
Yeah.
And the fact that we live butting up to the Arroyo, half the block is on the creek, like our house is on the end of the cul-de-sac. So that was an advantageous position when we were moving into town. Not only was it close to the downtown and the high school,
Yes.
and middle school too, but it was, the creek was invited to my brother and I,
Okay.
mostly me.
Did you catch fish? Did it have?
Yeah, and tadpoles, lots of
Okay,
them.
lots of
In
tadpoles.
those days, there wasn't really a lot of any vegetation in the creek.
Oh.
It was all gravel. In fact, there was a little gravel company behind us,
Yeah.
Zaros. And so
It was on Old Pleasanton, Old Stanley,
Okay.
right across the street
it
now.
was
It's
a unique
house.
way to wake up in a weekend morning, Saturday morning, the grinding and crushing of the rocks.
Yeah.
Or the train.
Oh, yes, yeah, you're close to the train too.
Yeah, because the old train went right by, of course, and
Right along First Street. And then the one that goes by the high school now. So there were two intersecting trees.
so the first night you woke up
Trains.
in the middle of the night, like, but then you start sleeping through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a great place to not only to grow up, but have our kids grow up. And then our grandkids have been coming for a lot of years now. And like one of our granddaughters said, Grandma, she was about 8 or 10, and she said, Grandma, I want your house.
I was gonna say, do you think it will stay in the family?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Whoever can buy who out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't really care.
Yeah.
Don't really care.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that'd be nice, it's been in the family for so long.
And it's got a good sized yard. Actually had a larger sized yard until the flood in 1955 came, and it got right up to the top of our bank during Christmas time.
Okay.
And it rained for 10 or 12 days, nights in a row, and the water actually went down over the Main Street Bridge at the hotel.
Oh.
And so it was going down the Main Street 2 or 3 inches.
But that was pre-Del Val Dam. So there was no control
Yes.
at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And Shadow Cliffs was just gravel pits. Then.
Yeah.
The young gravel pits.
Right.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
the lake, like.
So they were all packed up, ready to leave.
They, all the parents would meet from house to house each night and, talk and
Should we
decide
go?
where
Yeah,
should we go, should we stay?
Oh.
And so it cut away some of our bank, and it took some of the land, and it took the tree, and this brick pile and a wood pile, so probably good. It means we have less to keep care of now.
That's true. Yeah. But you'd never had to evacuate?
No.
You were
So
okay?
what happened is, got really close to the top, you could just reach down and touch it. And so my dad had the trucks coming down the street, kind of parked ready, and said, okay, everybody could put what they want in the trucks and, get to high ground if we need to. But, so it didn't have to be, so that was good.
Oh, that's good.
But not only did we have some areas that were close to flooding, but on Hop Yard it had a bunch, and it got really deep there. We actually went over the top of Hop Yard,
Well, Hop Yard used to flood
Yes.
a lot,
A
right?
lot.
and that's when they had hops on Hop
Yeah.
Yard still.
Yeah.
At Val Vista.
And the hops need that kind of water? Are they like
Well,
rice?
the whole area, Val Vista and Valley Trails were marshland at one time
Yeah.
in Pleasanton. So at one time that was the place where, dense vegetation, a lot of animals, way back when, it was before but settlement here.
Yeah, but do the hops need a lot of water, Jim?
Yeah, I think they do.
Okay,
yeah.
they're kind of like rice? or-
Right.
in
Yeah.
that-
It's
Okay,
it's like it's added to beer, of course.
yes. Of course you would know that. Okay, but yes, I heard people went duck hunting on
Oh,
Hop Yard
yes.
Road.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were up at the Adobe, Alviso Adobe, and one of the leaders up there said, at one time that there was such dense growth and forestation down there that the squirrels and things could jump from tree to tree and go all the way, from back up the,
Yeah.
it'll be all the way towards Dublin. It was all, it was a marshland.
Yeah.
Kind of like the things you see in the museum sometimes when they, you have a big old clam shell and oyster shells because they were found on the top of Monte Diablo when the ocean used to be over the top of this area.
Yeah. So where did you said you moved from Oakland to Pleasanton, and why did you move?
That was because Dad's changing of his business.
But why did he?
Well,
why did
because
he
it
stay in
was
Oakland?
more of a,
Because of Camp Parks.
yeah. And Karen Parks was still in existence
Oh.
and a lot
And
of
that was
guys
it.
going in and out.
Oh.
So there wasn't another moving company in the area.
Okay,
So-
so it was a perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
So after Camp Parks, what happened?
Oh, well, he expanded, actually. He ended up leaving the location in Pleasanton as a furniture store, new and used kind of furniture, and moved to Livermore and had a Livermore van and storage place too. So, because it was a bigger town,
Okay.
was then by quite a bit.
And you had the lab,
Yeah, oh yeah,
and so you had a lot of people coming in
in
and
and
out.
out there too.
Yeah.
So he's
And
continued.
my brother and I both got the opportunity to work there, so.
Got the opportunity. I think moving, that would be one of the worst jobs.
It built you up.
Yes.
When I played high school sports, it helped a lot.
Yeah,
I was stronger than I probably would have been by a lot, as
Yeah.
a littler person.
but, and so your parents lived here in Pleasanton, and where did they live?
My grandmother, they lived in the hills above Vallecillos. They had a ranch out there. So my my mom's parents lived on what was called Chicken Alley, which was Sycamore, Alisal, and Happy Valley.
Okay,
And my great uncle and aunt also lived out there, and they were the Mortensons. But my grandparents were the Andresens, and my grandfather came over on a ship from the Faroe Islands off of Germany because the First World War, because his family didn't want him to be in the war.
how old was he?
16?
Okay, but they wanted to get him out of.
Yes. And that's
So
when
he came by himself?
Yep. And that's when you had to come with a sponsor,
Yeah,
and that was the Meadowlark Dairy. And so he came as a milker.
now, how did he get connected with them?
He was Danish, and who know, I don't have that story, but Dobles were in, that was a Mortensen connection along with the Coatmans. So we're all kind of interrelated.
Okay.
And so my grandfather owned later the Pleasanton Electric Company, which was where Keller Williams is next to US Bank.
Okay.
And that was, he ran all the wells for San Francisco Water Company, which is where the Brunel Park is now, and those that are on the Alameda County Fair grounds, and also the Castlewood there.
Yes.
So that was my mom's side. My dad's side, he came from Minnesota when he was 4 in a Model T Ford out to Oakland, where my grandfather worked for Caterpillar, and he was a tool and die maker. And they built one of the Sears Roebuck houses,
Oh, yes.
yes, out on Sycamore.
Okay.
And that house is still there.
Okay. Now, the Sears and Roebuck houses, as far as I understand, you could go in a catalog and you could buy a house.
Right.
And they would send you
that
everything you needed
needed
for the house.
house.
And do you know what price they paid?
I have no idea.
I know it wasn't much compared to
yeah.
today, yeah.
So
Ah.
that was Momquist. And my father was an only child, and they had 12 acres of English walnuts, and they had, I want to say, 3 long, I think they called them coops, long deals of chickens. And that's the name Chicken Alley.
Because there were a lot of
A
people.
lot of people had those. My mother's parents had milking cows. They had like 10 of them, and then chickens and rabbits, and they ran they ran kind of a ranch kind of thing, and a couple of horses, and we lived next door to them. We had 2.5 acres, and and then up towards the corner, my aunt and uncle had 2.5 acres. So at that time, my grandfather got 2 houses from, at that point, I think it was Camp Shoemaker, which turned into Camp Parks.
Yeah.
But it was Camp Shoemaker, and he got 2 homes there and had them moved onto the property for each one of the daughters. So, and then they got the property.
No, that's probably when Camp Shoemaker was kind of
Closing, yeah.
after World War II, when
Right.
they didn't need
All
of
the housing,
Housing,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting, yeah.
so,
And are those houses still there?
no.
Oh,
Actually, the last one was bulldozed down, I think probably 2 years ago, which would have been 2022 or maybe 21. And Charles Huff was asked to, if that was any historical significance to it. And there wasn't. They were, really, I mean, it wasn't. So
still
that,
kind of a neat, yeah.
but where my house was, it was bulldozed down, and the CFO for Mancini Sleepwear has his whole complete compound there, taking up all
So I
the
know
2.5
which, okay.
acres.
Okay.
So, and then my, at the end there where it takes a sharp left, was my grandparents' house. And then you take a left and there's a church there, and then there's a white square house, and that was my great aunt and uncles.
Oh,
And that they were the Mortensons. And that property is still owned by the Mortenson family. So, yeah.
yeah.
Rebecca, you asked about how much Joanie's home might have cost then, but I know ours was $14,500 in 1953.
When you bought it from your parents?
No,
When they bought it, when they bought it.
Oh, when they, oh, yeah, 53, when they bought it,
1953.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, as we know, everything is escalated quite well.
Yes. And so those houses had to be much less than that because you didn't have the land and,
right.
and you had to build the house.
Or proximity to
Yeah.
downtown and stuff. But the,
We lived on well water,
Okay.
and so did my aunt and uncle, but we had a pipe that went between both wells when summertime came, and their well wasn't as deep as ours, and ours was close to an artesian well, which was my grandparents'. And so we just
Shared
turned
water.
on the valve and shared the water.
Well, where did you sell? Did you sell the chickens, the eggs, the rabbits? What?
My father's parents sold eggs and then the walnuts, and I can always remember October was when you harvested, and all the mothers that lived in the area would come, and on the tractor there's like a belt and went around the trees, and it would shake the trees and get all the walnuts
Yeah.
down. And so I absolutely hated October. because our hands were all black. And you went to school and here you had all these black hands.
Okay.
But,
Because they were the black walnuts and they're
yeah,
very nice.
no, not,
Oh,
they were
they were-
English walnuts.
Oh, okay,
All
they
English
still,
walnuts.
okay.
And I can remember, when the rains would come and we'd have to go, I would go with my dad and get the trays that were outside drying and bring them into the sheds so that they wouldn't get ruined.
Now, do you have siblings?
I had a brother who was 2.5 years older than I, who's passed away a long time ago. And then I have a sister who's 7 years younger, Janet, and she now lives in Missouri.
Okay.
But she was the baby, and my parents moved into town and lived on Bondi Court.
Now, why did they move into town? They,
Tired of taking care of everything.
okay.
Yeah, one of
Yeah.
the things they had there, and Jody got to help sometimes was, because when we were dating, they had sheep, so they raised sheep.
Oh, yeah, and I showed them in 4-H,
Yeah.
and I helped shear them, and.
She's good at trimming our dog now too, so that worked out well.
But, yeah, and so we did that and then sold the wool. And at that time, there would be shearing people that came through
Yeah.
and would shear them. And so quite a few people had, I think we had probably 15. And when the babies were born, a lot of times if they were twins, the mom wouldn't take them. And so we brought them in the house and fed them. And then, and of course they went to slaughter, and Fiorio's meat grocery had a meat market there. And we would take them up to Moeller on the slaughterhouse. And then, yeah. But my sister doesn't eat lamb at all.
Because of all that.
Because of all that.
Oh.
Yeah. But, so I had a very rural growing up.
Yeah. What did you do with the eggs? I've talked to a couple other people who raised eggs in Pleasanton, and they said they'd even take them as far as Oakland.
Oh,
And
now, I don't know what my grandparents did with them, but they had a lot of them. And then they raised turkeys too, only for,
Consumption.
Thanksgiving?
yeah, for Thanksgiving. But I was really young. I was like 9 or 10.
Did you
When
say-
you moved off the farm and moved into town?
Well, no, when my grandfather passed away. And so the chickens, that part went away. The English walnuts, they kept doing that. And that was a cooperative that was Black Diamond or something similar, a big corporation.
Yeah.
And everybody would bring them in, and I believe it was into Oakland.
Okay.
Joni mentioned that her grandfather was able to work in the dairy business, but her grandmother was the cook at the Meadowlark Dairy.
And that's how they met.
And he was working with the
Yeah,
cows in the herd there.
How many workers did they have there? Did you ever hear?
at the dairy.
Yeah.
I've only seen pictures because and
Bruce Higgins would probably know more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they came
yeah.
along after that. Started in 1919, dairy, and then closed in 1969.
But in looking at pictures, it looks like they probably had a herd of 25.
That's what I thought.
Oh, no more than that?
No,
Oh, okay.
okay.
There were 6 dairies in Pleasanton at that time.
Oh, yeah,
When
okay.
originally, like Giger.
Hanson and
Giger.
Giger.
Yeah.
And Orloff.
And there was a Portuguese dairy on Foothill too.
There was one on
Fabish.
Black Avenue. Yeah, yeah, and they were Portuguese also.
So, I mean, was Pleasanton consuming most of this produce that everybody was
The
producing?
milk went over the hill.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then-
or a lot of milk, like for my grandfather who had the 10 or 12 cows. he brought the milk into the cheese factory.
Oh, that's
And
right.
so,
You had the.
and so I used to go down there and lay on the cows and wait for him to finish so that we could come in, bring the milk into, and that's after you had to homogenize the milk.
Yeah,
And so that was kind of an expensive process. So he would just bring it into the cheese factory, but then we'd drop the milk off and then go down to his building in the electric company. And he would give me a dime and we would go down to Fruden's where the pastas is now. That was a grocery store, and get penny candy, and then walk down to the vet's hall where there was a crossing guard, our first crossing guard, and go to school. And it was like, whoa, that was big time.
that was
That was
fun.
big time.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was something you and your grandpa shared.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's nice, and to have those memories of those simple times, but they were really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
Now, you keep saying your grandfather had an electric company, but he
Yeah.
did the wells.
but he also had the washers, the spinner,
Oh,
rotating where you put the clothes through the
ringer.
ringer, and the first dryers, and then the radios.
okay, so that's what was in his
Yeah,
shop.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, you diversified when you were then. And then he had a couple of first TVs. And then my aunt and uncle were Bud and Elaine Miller. Elaine was my mom's sister. And right where, across where the mural is, across Main Street, there used to be 2 buildings there. And if you look back, it was Clark Electric. And then after or before was my aunt and uncle's appliance store. And they used to have all the,
So they competed with your grandpa.
well, but
They were in sales and repairs of TVs.
Yeah.
Oh.
And if you ever wanted your TV repaired, it took my uncle forever. But, and it was, and they were tubes, and
Yeah, and it was a time where you could repair them.
right. But in there, they also had records. And the LPs and the 45s.
Yeah, that's right when the 45s came out.
And it had all the latest, greatest.
So fun to go.
Yes.
Shopping.
Yeah, and so, and that was a fun time.
Yeah.
A fun time. And Marty Interbitson, the Interbitzens grew up here too. And so it was Charlie, Eddie, and Marty. And Marty was an attorney here in town later on. But his mom worked for my aunt and uncle, Dorothy. And so everybody in almost every single one of the businesses here was kind of related to somebody else.
Okay.
So it was, kind of one of those
Just-
small towns.
Yeah, small town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the best thing, being raised in a small town. I mean, she was a farm girl. I was a city boy.
It was the big time.
So yes, when you came here, you must have been excited. You
Yeah,
said
it
you
was
were,
great.
Yeah, because you were excited about the creek and.
Right, and it was,
His brother was not.
no, he was in junior high then, so he didn't
Oh.
really want to leave.
Yeah.
So I thought it was great. And so just to be in a small town, and our high school, of course, was small. And the only elementary we had was KA Pleasanton Elementary.
Okay.
So everybody went to the school together all the way through. So you really
Got to know them well.
everybody
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But our high school didn't get to 400 till near the end of when I was there and graduated in '62. And that's because they started to build in
San Ramon
downtown, but
Village.
They called it San Ramon Village, country living and city close,
Yeah.
So we're
Country
using,
quiet, city close, country
there
quiet.
it is. So,
Yeah.
same idea.
San Ramon came here to school?
Well, yeah,
No,
it was
no.
Dublin, but they called it San Ramon
Okay.
Village, because here you got Dublin right
You
into San
didn't
Ramon.
want Dublin.
There wasn't San Ramon.
It wasn't,
There wasn't
didn't
Dublin yet.
flow off your tongue.
Yeah.
Since they didn't have a school, they came to
Right.
Ecuador for a few years.
Yes.
So we got a little bigger. And but you had an opportunity not only to know everybody, but you also had opportunity to be involved in things, whether it was, band like Joanie was in, or cheering sections, or playing on teams where, you wouldn't have got maybe that opportunity if there was 1,000 kids or 2,000 kids.
Right, yeah. So that's really nice,
Yeah.
yes. So when did you move to town? How old were you?
I didn't move to town.
Okay,
My-
parents did.
I stayed there a
I-
long time.
I was married
When they moved to town.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was
Yeah.
much later. So they
Yeah.
worked that farm for a long time.
Well, my dad was an electrician and he worked out at, he first worked out at Camp Parks.
Okay.
He was the head of the maintenance crew out there. And then when they started closing down, Sandia was opening.
Okay.
And so he went to work for Sandia.
Oh, okay.
And my mom worked for Jackson and Perkins, like a lot of the ladies did.
Which is the flower company.
Right.
But which we had here, and where was it located here?
It was located where Heritage Bank is now, on Main Street.
Right across the street from
The
Gay 90s.
offices,
The offices, where were the flowers?
the flowers were on a Burnell property. So, and there was,
Must have been beautiful.
it was gorgeous. And we had the Braceros came and worked the fields, and all, with they had signed cards, because that was a program then. And so, it just was. Yeah. So my dad retired from Sandia, and he was the head of the maintenance out there. Maintenance meaning electrical, plumbing, whatever needed that IT, needs.
And I benefited because she went into his shop and learned from her dad and became really handy. So when we have things to get fixed, she's
Joanie
the one
does
that
it.
does it. Yeah, so she's.
What was your maiden name?
Momquist.
Momquist.
And I was always going to marry somebody with a short last name.
And you did.
Because nobody pronounced it correctly.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Because how was it spelled?
Malmquist.
Oh.
So, my father didn't speak English until he was like 4 or 5, because he came from a community that was all Swedish in
Minnesota.
yeah,
And that was pretty typical.
very typical, and
Yeah.
still in a lot. And when people go, oh well, they need to learn to speak English, you take these segments in the East Coast, you take them in the Northeast, and those people still speak especially if they're older.
They enjoy, yes,
Yes,
being able to
and
speak with someone.
traditions.
Yeah. But it was always, and we still see it today, but yes, you went to live by your relatives
Yes,
or by friends that you knew,
yes,
because then you had a community.
right.
And, and the traditions and the.
And we
the
had
schedule.
that kind of here too. We had Rebecca's, we had Eastern Star, we had Masonic. And so growing up, I was a rainbow girl. And because everybody did that.
Yeah.
But we had the Catholic community and we had the Presbyterian community. And we had a little bit of the Baptist. But that was pretty much
the
it.
two religions.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And none of the twain shall meet. My maid of honor, who's still one of my best friends, was Catholic. And she couldn't come to our church at all. but I could go to hers if I wore a doily on my head. So, but, changing times, and our kids who grew up in the 70s and 80s here were very lucky. Jimmy was student body president in Amador, and our son in 85, 86 was also student body president. So, and our daughter was a cheerleader, and they,
They enjoyed growing up here.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and our daughter cutting classes. So, yeah.
Well,
But we all knew.
yeah,
We all knew.
but you were a teacher, Jim.
Yeah, for 39 years.
And what did you teach at what schools?
Actually, a lot of them. Started at Harvest Park for 11 years, middle school. Well, before that, before we came back to town, I taught high school in 2 different locations.
What do you mean back to town? Oh, that's right. So you got married.
Went to Davis, got a job.
You went to Davis with it.
Right.
Okay.
And then worked up in the mother lode at Tuolumne County.
Okay.
At a high school called Somerville. And so I taught history classes there and for 2 years. And then the uncle and aunt that you talked about, Bud and Elaine Miller, have been relocated working for the FFA up in Alaska. So we went up to visit them one summer, and there was a job open at the high school there. And
I mean, that was a big move.
yeah, and
we were silly kids, and we thought, whatever.
Why not experience
it was a
something
good run economically because, the income jumped up like 2.5 times what I was getting paid as a starting teacher up in the mother lode. And so we stayed there for 3 years and found out what cold weather was like. Because back then it was like, maybe a dozen days that were colder than 50 below zero. So we were on the highway, but about 100 miles south of Fairbanks. And so we learned how to adapt
and then decided, okay, we've already learned how to adapt. Now we're going to get out of here.
Right.
So go to Pleasanton.
And so then we went down here, and I got a job from Tom Hart. He was hiring people out of the little building next door that's a Mexican restaurant now, Blue Agave. He actually was our vice principal
When we were in elementary
Oh.
school.
Okay.
So we knew him there. So he hired me and said, well, I don't have a high school opening right now, but because it was starting to slow down and we had more teachers than we had positions for. He said, I've got an opening at the junior high. Since I had a credential that could teach that, actually it was open-ended. It was sort of general education. So I went back and finished off my elementary part too later, but ended up getting the job at Harvest Park. So there I taught math and health and actually Spanish one year, introduction to foreign language.
Are you a Spanish speaker?
I could speak Spanish pretty well, but
Okay,
French and German was a learn on the fly.
Okay.
Luckily we had.
Senor Athenauer
He was
our teacher.
Oh, so you learned in high school.
yeah, from him for
Bob
4
Athenauer.
years. He was
Wow.
great. I didn't think so at the time because he gave you a lot of homework and it was really demanding and really encouraged you to do your best. And if you kind of sloughed off, he would let you know. So I didn't do
Ding,
that.
ding, ding.
And so
It's so
I still
smart
remember
that
it.
he taught Spanish that long ago because, already knowing it was really going to be important for California.
Right? He was a great guy. After I got out of high school, I found out.
And he was a great guy.
But we actually taught some together at the library when we were working with bilingual people and helping them to learn English.
Yeah.
So he worked with me. And by that time, he said, he liked to be in the background and he would just be assisting me. But he knew way more than I did. But he was nice about that. And then he's tutored some on the side. He liked to work with people one-on-one. Then I ended up going down to Walnut Grove and Bob Wakeling was principal there then. And I stayed at Walnut Grove for 14 years, and it worked out really well. I liked the third graders and second graders. You know, I coached that level with my son.
Oh, okay.
And so, and it was a nice change. So I found out how to work with people. Actually, when I was teaching second a couple of years, that you open the door and naturally they're much shorter and had a few with tears, somebody like one little boy that was just, that the mother told me he did that every year. And then another one that was a young girl that, just was afraid of having a man teacher because it was the first man teacher. And she stayed with me for 2 years because I moved up to third grade and she came up with me too. So, and that was really good. And then I went to Alisal for another 9 years and taught over there in the elementary. And then subbed. And then once I started subbing, I got to go to every one of the elementaries. And so it was fun. I just got weaned that way from teaching that.
Yeah.
Did it when I was up to it and available. So.
Okay. So you had a long history of teaching in the community.
Yeah. And then I got to coach. I got to coach both at Foothill and Amador.
Oh, coach what sport?
Well, at Amador was freshman football and freshman baseball.
Tell them who coached with you.
Oh, and when I started coaching at Amador and football the first year, I had Dan Sweeney on the team. And so his brother Matt came and asked me if he could help me coach and be one of my assistants. And I said, sure, so he joined. And right away I could tell he really knew what he was doing and had great contact with the kids. And so he took over the receivers and the defensive backfield and called the pass plays. And so we did really well.
Good.
And then I said, every time I saw him, once he had a great successful career at Foothill as the head coach, I told him, now remember, Matt, tell everybody that you're part of my tree. I started you out, And he was a much better coach in football than I was. Then I coached at Foothill and girls softball, and we won the first couple of championships there. And so that's a secret of a good coach, is you fall into places that have really good talent, and then you could look like you're really good.
But did you enjoy the coaching more or the teaching?
Both, but I think, the coaching I found to be invigorating. Well, I coached basketball at Harvest Park too, but so, it got you in contact with kids in a different direction.
Yeah.
And some of the kids that were not so good in class were really good at sports. It doesn't always work out that way.
Right.
A lot of people are good at both, but so you could get to see a kid and work with a kid, and then all of a sudden he became better for you if you happen to have him in class because you had a little more leverage with him because he wanted to participate more in the sport.
Yeah.
So,
And what sports did you play?
football, basketball, and baseball. But remember what I said a lot earlier, the school is small, and if I was ever going to try basketball, try out in the high school, the way it grew, get guys that are 5'7" or something, like, don't get picked, usually unless they're really tricky and they do a lot of things. And I wasn't really a very good shooter anyway. But the fast, yes, but baseball, I was on the varsity for 4 years, and football I played for 3 years. And so you could play as a smaller person, like I said.
Yeah.
But he played at Davis also.
Yeah.
Oh, what did you play at Davis?
Baseball.
Oh.
Just for a while, like a year.
But you were a good baseball player then if you got to play at Davis.
Yeah, I was okay, it was like,
Davis was small then too.
Right, yeah. And actually it was less than 5,000 kids that were at Davis then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so about less than 5,000 bikes then too.
Yeah.
But our daughter-in-law graduated from Davis, and our oldest granddaughter just graduated from Davis. So we've got 3 generations that are Davis grads.
Nice. Yeah. And so, Joanie, what have you done during all of his teaching? I know you've done a lot.
You learned from your grandmother how to be really good in the kitchen.
Oh, well.
Is she the one who taught you to bake?
Well, to cook food.
Okay.
Okay. My grandmother used to do every single year the Presbyterian Church's general meeting in the old social hall on Neal Street, the turkey dinner for everybody. And that was her donation to
Now,
the
when we're
church.
talking about the Presbyterian church, you're talking about the little white church?
Yes,
that
it's
still
now
is on the corner?
Baptist, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so, and then she used to do, down at the Vets Hall for the Lions Club, and that, they were a big organization at that time, and she would do a turkey dinner down there for everybody. So I got to, for 50 cents a night, I got to help, serve everybody. And then my grandmother also had out on the ranch, she had, where she took in, people that were, not they were institutionalized when they used to have county hospitals.
Yes.
But these people could be out and working, like collecting eggs, doing gardening, cleaning house, that kind of thing. So she would have, there would be like 2 men or 3 men on one side of the house, and then 3 ladies on the other side of the house. And so she had those people for years, absolutely.
Living in her house?
Yes, but her house
Oh.
was
The state.
large.
Yeah.
State supported.
And yeah, they were state supported.
Yeah.
And then, so,
So she really had a kind heart.
oh,
For
yeah,
people.
but she rolled the roast. So,
She got
but
that too.
she was,
Yeah, she got that from grandma.
You know.
Yeah.
she was also Mother of the Year here for the city. So that was kind of cool. So I was very ADD on, if I wasn't having fun with whatever I was doing, I changed jobs. So like when we first came back, I worked for Wells Fargo as a teller for not very long at all. And Larry Lindsay was the branch manager at that time. So then I got a job at Dublin High School for Bob Hagler, Don Landers, Don Seaver were all the VPs and principals at that point. And I was like a truant officer.
Oh, okay.
So the kids that weren't going to school, I had to bring them in, and that's when you could file truancy. You don't do that anymore, and that's when the drugs started coming, and so did
What year
that.
was that? That the drugs started?
74,
I don't know, 4 or 5. Yeah.
4 or 5, and so then Don Landers became the principal at Foothill, and he called and said, "Can you come and be the secretary for student activities at Foothill because we have a mess?" And so I went there for a couple years. Then I went and sold Reader's Digest. I mean, I've done a lot of different things. Probably the thing that I did the most, that I enjoyed the most, was probably having my own catering business. And that was, it was a lot of fun. We had a baker, pastry baker.
A great one, yeah.
We had 2 really good ones. And so then when the economy in 91 started going downhill, I sold that. And I went, when I sold it, I had a no compete clause. So I was bored and couldn't stand it, And so the old Safeway on Santa Rita was the new Safeway.
Okay.
And I went and did the floral
Oh.
there.
Okay.
And Judy Del Tredici and I'm thinking of her name, doesn't matter, saw me and said, we need a teacher for our OOP floral. The other person just stopped. And so I went and applied and got the job and did that.
6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7. And then we had a medical issue, and so stopped doing that. And with that, that opened up
All your
all my
volunteer stuff.
and volunteering for the museum.
Yes.
And that was the Phoebe exhibit. That was the 50s
So-
exhibit.
At one time, we had a beautiful exhibit here with
Ansel
on Ansel Adams and a Phoebe Hearst exhibit.
Yes.
She did that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they were both wonderful
Yeah.
and very well received.
Yeah.
And a lot of work. I mean,
Well-
we were really a volunteer pretty much.
We were all
museum at that
volunteer.
time.
And how, I can remember this room and Jan Batchelor and I measuring it out to get lavender fabric
Yeah.
to staple the whole walls and put everything behind them. And of course, Bill Apperson had the connection with the Hearst Castle. And Charles Huff, Jan, and I went down and were allowed to go into the catacombs where they had, everything was atmosphere, control. And were able to bring wonderful things from that, from the castle. And it was all about having connections
So Bill was a nephew
of Phoebe Apperson Hearst.
Yeah.
His dad was Phoebe's brother.
yes, and he was the caretaker
Yes.
also of the castle grounds.
No. Yeah, well,
Yes.
yeah, a long
Yeah,
time
yeah.
ago. Yeah.
So, and Bill lived in town here, and
Yes,
that
but
was
he-
wonderful.
as
Just for some history for our viewers,
Right on St. Mary's, right? up
He,
over the railroad
yeah,
track.
Yeah.
and his dad picked that spot so he could get on the train. They would stop. So he could get on the train to go down to Vervis.
His ranch, yeah.
And then, down at Sonol. Yeah, but Bill was an amazing, grumpy guy. He was grumpy to start out with, and once he knew you, he was
so-
wonderful.
And he was also an interior decorator.
Yes, and
So
he had
that
a real
was
eye.
for art and
Yes.
such, yes.
But he also was a jockey, the one's a buggy,
Oh, a harness
harness
shop.
I
jockey.
did not know that.
Yes, he was. And he has, in the garage, there is one of the buggies.
And so-
Sulky, it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he do it more here at the fairgrounds or all around?
I don't know, I don't think he did it all around, probably in the Bay Area
More
when they were,
local.
Bay Meadows and Golden Gate
Okay.
and Pleasanton.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
but,
interesting.
and then Ansel Adams, we got the originals from his granddaughter
Who lived here in town.
who lived
Yeah.
here in town. That was
We were so lucky, yeah,
absolutely amazing.
yeah.
So, and those cost very little to do.
Yeah.
Very little.
Ansel Adams was our big California photographer, especially of Yosemite.
Right,
I think people think of Ansel Adams so much there,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
But yeah, it just, and I don't know, did we take a lot of photos? Did we of
Yeah.
those so that we? have
I
that?
don't know if we did or not.
I don't know.
It's gotta be in the archives.
Yeah.
But we did, yeah.
'Cause they
Those,
were
and we
beautiful.
did the fifties one, which had camps, pumpkin cat, and it had fishers. And Jim,
Demersman or,
no,
oh,
Jim Allen
oh,
did so much of the artistry along with Shelby McNamara
Yeah.
from the chamber. And again, it was another,
just volunteer.
Yes.
Jim was on our board and,
Yeah.
but he did a lot of things.
right,
He was very good at woodworking.
right,
And he did our kitchen, but he also
Right.
did, yeah,
yeah.
a lot of our things.
So that was part of my deal. We also had the other event.
Yes,
And that was with Ed Kenny and
Leonard Mark helped on. cutting
Leonard
out
Mark
the
and,
cows.
right, and I'm thinking, lived out in Sycamore, was the head of the, he was on the on the board,
oh, Pete Bailey?
Pete Bailey and Pat Lane. And I came up with the name, the other event, and they are all going, oh, well, I don't know about that. That's a little risque. And I said, go with it,
Well, the
guys.
president had the cow history.
well,
and
yeah,
that's what made
yeah,
sense, you know.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and we had a couple fundraisers with that.
Yes.
We had races down Main Street, which was cool. And we also sold the
Cows
cows.
and people had them in their yards.
Right, right. And there's some miniatures here at the museum that people can buy. So
Now
yeah,
the cows were made of wood
they were plywood.
and they
Yeah.
were like this tall.
No, they were whatever an 8 foot by 4 foot
Okay.
could be done.
Yeah,
And so that raised money and people bought in. And the pastime pool hall guys bought one. And, so that was really fun. But, as far as the
Started
city,
the spirit run too.
the spirit run, because Jimmy was on the Park and Rec at that time.
oh, okay.
And he volunteered me for the committee. He said, oh, she can run a race.
Well, I got into running a lot, so I
Oh.
figured, let's do it. And then you could take it over, and as you did.
And so it went from the ACT, Arroyo Centennial Trail, to the Spirit Run, which is still now, and
With the Rotary's help.
at the Rotary.
Yeah.
So, and the first two were just strictly volunteer. And so then onward and upward, I was on the task force for the Adobe. I was on the task force for the firehouse. Then I was on the Park and Rec, thanks to Jerry Thorne. He deaded me on several other commissions that I wanted to be on, and he said, this one is right for you. And so when the Burnell property was all started, I was lucky to be on, part
We
of
were so
that.
lucky to get that from San Francisco.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it's just
a lot of people,
right there in
connections.
Pleasanton,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
And Jerry Thorne was a great mayor that we had.
and he was a
so involved.
very silent
Yeah.
participant, but you knew he was there and he would help. And from that, I got on the Community of Character, which I'm still on. And
And that was started for Juanita Hagen.
right, and
Who
Jerry,
was a
board member for
board
the
member of the school
school
board
district.
for a long time.
And she went to Washington DC when Clinton was president, and came back with this concept. And we need to remember all those characteristics that have helped make our community what it is. And so Jerry Thorne and Juanita were a part of building that. And so last year we gave 11 $1,000 scholarships. And
Kids from Amador, Foothill, and Village.
Village. So, and it's about what their community and what they've done in their community.
Yes.
And the kids are amazing. I mean, these could be CFOs or CEOs of any company now. They are so brilliant. Nothing like what we were.
Well, and kids really get involved in the community, but they don't have as much responsibility at home.
Oh, none.
As
Yeah.
so many of us did growing up
Right.
with, bigger families or being on a farm or, just having to help out with doing paper routes and mowing and doing all that. You don't see kids doing that so much now. You see them volunteering.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I rode the bus every day.
Yeah.
And so going home, it was Castlewood, Sunol, down. And then when I got off the bus, I had to get dinner ready for the family
Yeah.
because my mother was working and my father was working. So that was my job.
Yeah. Yep.
So didn't stay too much with the girl. I did play sports, but sports then for girls was like,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, field hockey. And,
yeah.
Oh.
I was a freshman on the field hockey,
Oh.
and because I was super competitive, and if you can,
I can't imagine you being super competitive.
well, I've mellowed. I have mellowed. So yeah, but the museum has so grown, and it's great to.
Isn't it great to see it become really a professional museum? I mean, because when we started, it was, like I said, more volunteer, and we did anything and everything to make money and to keep things going, and then gradually so we had enough money, and
Right.
we're blessed with Gene Jones's
Well, that was
gift to us.
huge.
Yeah, so that we could become a professional museum, and that was huge.
Yeah, and yeah.
and the Ed Kenny Lecture Series has been a godsend.
Oh,
in really
so
adding
good.
to the community.
And people come to that normally wouldn't come to the museum.
Yeah.
And then some have made it so they join the museum after going
Yes.
and finding out all about it, so
Yeah.
they become active.
Yeah, and then we're talking about the Chautauqua lectures
Right.
that we have, and they were so great. But we started out here,
Yes, we
then we went
did.
to the Methodist Church,
Right.
and we tried to keep them more local. We thought at that time, let's talk about Pleasanton history, Pleasanton mayors. we
Well,
had,
that
different-
was at Alice Al multipurpose room.
Yeah,
And that's when we had Floyd Morey, Bob Philcox,
Ken Mercer.
Ken Mercer, Frank Brandis, and Ed Kenny.
it's too bad we didn't film those kinds of things.
Well, nobody thought about it
No,
at that
we
time.
didn't think about it at the time.
No.
And, but yeah, they were wonderful. But I think the Chautauqua series brings in
A different type
a
of
different
history.
type of history and more diversity for the people
Right,
in the community, and that's nice.
right.
Yeah, you're right. But you've also been awarded with the Patriot Award,
Yes,
which
Yeah.
is named after Ed Kinney.
right.
And he did a lot for the museum in that he, first of all, got a lot of board members.
Yes, he
A lot of
did.
us joined
And
because of him.
you never said no.
Right.
Right,
And he was Mr. Parade, every parade he announced. And
Yeah.
so-
yeah. And but you don't do things in your community for recognition.
Yeah.
You do them for the love of the community. I was chairperson for the Amador 100th birthday.
Yes.
And that was an amazing collaboration with the museum the school district, the school itself, and the principal, John Vay, was just the new principal. Unbelievable.
And then all those leaders from each class who
Right.
were putting together
Right.
their thing, right?
And also, of course, Jonathan Grantham, Mr. Band.
Yeah.
And he is the one who came up with the era of a new,
Dawn of a new era.
dawn of a new era. And and then Jen Amiel,
Yeah.
who used to work for the museum, came up with the graphic.
Oh, okay.
So, in fair, I mean, people, all different types of people, different areas,
Different skills.
different skill
Yeah,
sets,
we have
came
some,
in and really worked
Yeah.
hard.
yeah.
And the love of their community or their class or something like that.
Yeah.
So, good things.
Yeah.
And if you just open yourself up and say, how can I help? What are my skill sets that can help with our community? Jim used to deliver before the pandemic, Meals on Wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So, those things are,
And it's so important to help those, and then at some point, if we need the help, there will be other people to help us. It just kind of is the way it is. If you guys separately, like who has had a big impact on your life from Pleasanton? Who would you say?
For me, we both grew up in the Presbyterian church, but
Okay.
for me, it was Reverend Boat, Bob Boat.
Okay.
So he was here for like 27 years. So when I was getting into my teens, and a lot of the guys that I knew in our class, we belonged to the church, and went up to Zephyr Cove with him, and so he was young.
So
then.
that longevity of him being here that long was really, it's nice for supportive of being with families.
Right, and
Yeah.
he did marriages for the family and
Yeah.
baptisms for the family. Both our daughter and son were baptized by him. So we knew he was kind of a grandfather figure for our daughter. And high school, I was blessed to have some really great teachers that were helped mold me. Bob Hagler, Joanie mentioned, Jerry Wolfley, Pete Estrada, teachers like Helen Barton who taught English, Bob Athenauer, of course, foreign language. So it was, I had Neil Sweeney as vice principal. So I didn't have to go to him for discipline reasons, but I worked with him when I was student body president. So, a lot of and then in the community, some of the early mayors like Ed Kinney and Ken Mercer got me involved in being involved in the city. So they all helped to kind of develop what I kind of thought about things.
Okay.
So I thank all of them.
Yeah. How about you, Joan?
well, I think it makes me too. My grandmother was probably one of the most giving people, and she just was a great person. Gave always, and I think Pat Lane later in life, I would go and visit with them, and we worked on the board together. Some of the things I didn't care about, but I think her love of the community helped me. Ed Kenny, of course, we taught J High Fellowship with Ed and Roberta.
Oh,
for a long time through the Presbyterian Church. And
First it was with our kids, and then once they moved
You
on,
just kinda
we
continued.
just kept going.
yeah, but I was the chairperson for the landscaping for the new church up in the Mirador Court.
Okay.
And it was just because of Bob. And you look through the people, and we were very lucky and blessed to have so many people that touched our lives. I don't know if kids have that as much anymore because they're always on their phones. But yeah, well, one of my favorite people was Jim Campana. He was Mr. Band,
Yeah.
and he
Did you play for him?
Yes.
Okay,
well, Chan Henderson first,
okay.
and the Chan Henderson Bandstand that's on Wayside Park.
It's
And
not
that
there
was-
anymore.
Now what is Pleasanton Elementary, and I started playing clarinet in 4th grade, and then went on to high school and played clarinet there. But my sophomore year, we had a brand new bass clarinet, and Mr. Campana asked me if I wanted to play it, and so I was the first bass clarinet player at Amador. And he was an amazing person. And even after he retired, we still kept in contact. And he was a very fundamental person to develop David Garibaldi, who was the
Okay.
drummer for Tower of Power.
Yeah, he just.
And he just retired, but he kept David in school because David didn't like high school, but
But he loved playing the drums. So
And
he worked with him.
he worked with him.
Like you said, with coaching.
Yeah,
You know.
and so with that, David is known as he's in the Hall of Fame for percussion, and he developed funk, and that is music.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he teaches and writes
Still.
books, instructional books. And so you never know where these people are going to, be the part that it make you look up and be a better person.
Yeah. And aren't we blessed to have, like you said, those people in our lives that it's so important that we remember them
Yes.
because we carry them with us.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just thought it was this town was so together in those days. I know you've heard of the scholarship frolics.
Yes.
Where the teachers and the community clubs and things would all put on skits and routines at the high school. And so you had faculty members involved, like my dad was involved, and
Although he wasn't a faculty member.
no,
So-
it was just people. in the
People
community.
No, but he was
community
Lions-
he was
Lions
Lions Club,
Club.
and Lions was big, huge.
So
Now it's
really
not-
active. Okay.
Oh, very active.
And so it was, they did it more than one night, and all the town showed up, and so.
And the home ec class made the fondant and the, all that kind of stuff and bagged it together because you could do it then.
I could still see the faculty members and some of the community people, and the can-can, they had them all dressed up as can-can girls, so.
Didn't Bob Lane was the
Yes,
can
yes, yeah. But,
And Neil Sweeney and Don Seaver.
Tom Hart, but they all went down to HAPS too. So different time.
Different time. It was a different
But
time.
it's still here. You have people come to live in Pleasanton because they feel it's community. But they need to know how to get involved in the community. But when you're raising kids, that's your focus.
Yeah. But you brought up a good point, because getting involved in the community really makes you feel a part
Yes,
and makes you love the community more.
right.
Yeah, and it's just asking, like you were asked,
Right.
to join different things or do different things, and then you do it, and then you.
Yeah, but we did the police academy,
Uh-huh.
and what an eye opener. Because you think you know a lot,
Yeah.
but you don't. The more you get involved, the more you understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
when we were kids, there was like 5 or 6 policemen then.
They were
Walt McLeod was the chief, and, Joe Rose was, number 1 and officer. And so now it's, hundreds of people that work at the police station. But when we were taking the academy, you'd have a different department being featured each week.
Okay.
So we did it for like 14 weeks. And so we learned all the different facets. And so like Jody said, it was really eye-opening.
Yeah.
And so you got to know a lot of the people that were working in that you never saw before.
You didn't see them regularly, huh?
No.
Jim, that's good. That's good.
But there's so
Yeah.
much now.
Yeah.
There's so much now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, any last thoughts, or
No.
you guys have had interesting lives
Yeah,
here?
well, just the other day I was, since I've been walking the main street
Yeah.
quite often with our young
yeah.
dog, and we were doing a lot of some of the buildings, the historical buildings, and it bothered me when I walked by Christensen's to see it closed and then papered over, because when we were growing up, that was
That's where you got your block sweater.
Right.
And you got your shoes.
Right.
And
Yeah,
your gym closed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, Daughtry's.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but yes.
then they had tennis
Christensen.
shoes and they had,
Oh, yes,
so
it
they
was
had
awful.
more than just cowboy attire.
Yeah.
So there was jeans, and so when your birthday or Christmas came around, a lot of the things came from there too.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so, when you walked by Coleman's, he always wants to go there because there's a bowl of dog biscuits out front. And, but it's still got the same look as the old Coleman's Hardware that we used to all go to. And
you could go in there and say, I need this, and it looks kind of like that. And they get on the ladder, go up and pull
out
out,
of it.
and they knew exactly.
Yeah.
You didn't have to buy a whole bag of stuff.
Yes.
And so, of course, this building was the city hall and the first police station.
And the
a little
library.
bit of library. And so, and the Pleasant sign was still here, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the Pleasanton electric sign that was my grandfather's, Charles Huff has, or Kay has it now.
Yeah.
And they're going to put it in the new house up on Pine Hill.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So I said, if you ever decide that you want to get rid, because they had asked me, and I said, I'll find a place in my backyard.
Yeah, somewhere, yeah.
Lightened up.
Yeah, I would light it up.
Yeah. Just for the memories.
Well, yeah, and you just go, wow.
But, like we mentioned the Candy Cane Lane before, so and getting involved with that not only strengthens your court, because like I mentioned, there's 27 different houses. I counted up, there's 20 dogs on the block too. And we know all their names, not just the people's names, but the dogs'
But the dogs' names too.
And so it brings you together, but it also makes you feel, and it is, a way to serve your community by what
Yes.
you're offering.
Because a
them.
lot of people go
drive.
there during Christmas and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, a lot of walkers now. A lot of
Yeah.
people get out of their car and walk,
Yeah.
provided the weather's okay.
Yeah.
And so.
That is a lovely thing to.
And the city makes it so they bring out their signs saying no parking for that whole month.
And they clean the street extra that during that month. So for the month that we were lit up, it
Everything.
does ring up.
So the city cooperates a lot. Yeah,
Yes,
helps you
yes.
make it happen. That's great.
Yeah, so,
So in some ways, it's still like a small town
Right, it is.
in that they do things like that.
yeah. So,
Well, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
This has been lovely. It's so interesting to hear about all this. And you've lived in Pleasanton for how long?
Let's see, for
Mine
me,
is-
71 years.
Okay,
And yours is, well, I'm talking about longevity wise.
Oh.
Not all those years were here, of course, because we went away for like 11 and a half or so.
Yeah.
So between
Yeah.
school and teaching
Yeah.
out of the town.
but kind of nice to get away because then maybe you appreciated
Well-
it more when
We
you
did.
came back.
Well, and it was, you failed if you stayed here.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was just like,
so then you went away for, we went away for 11 years and then decided, hey, this is a pretty good place. And the weather's perfect. You can get to the beach, you can get to the mountains, snow, sand,
Well,
and,
this is the hottest July.
Yeah.
In our
Yeah.
life.
Horrible.
In Pleasanton.
but it's a pretty good place.
Yeah.
And somebody said, well, where are you going to move to? You can go to Oregon or you can go to Nevada. And I'm going, not going anywhere.
Well, as you know, because you travel a lot too. So when you travel, you can't wait to come back.
Right.
Too, because you see things, you love it, you say, this is really
Yeah.
nice, but no
still,
place
there's
like
no
home.
place like home.
Yeah.
So,
And you got to go to the dairy.
Yeah.
We get our milk there, we get our eggs there, not too many Frosties. But yeah,
Enough.
yeah.
And the grandkids.
And Jesse lives on our block.
Yeah,
He bought the Moeller house.
yeah.
We kind of made that happen. So when Evie Moeller passed away at 90,
101.
Okay.
101.
then her grandson got it, and Jesse and Kelsey were looking for a place, and they wanted to be downtown. And so I talked to Mark and said, it'd be really nice because we have the Middle Arc Dairy Connect on Foothill, we have the Moeller Slaughter Connect, and it was perfect fit. Perfect fit. So you want people that want to be part.
Right.
But thank you for letting us have the opportunity
Yeah,
to
thank
share.
you
Yeah.
so much.
Blah, blah,
Thank you.
blah.